Dashboard Effect Podcast. I'm Rick Thompson.
I'm Caleb Oakes.
Caleb, our last two episodes have been pretty technical. We're talking about Power BI data models, talking about report performance, DAX measures. I think we'll stay on that theme and talk about data pipelines. And by pipelines, I mean sort of what we used to refer to as ETLs. Now is commonly an ELT, as you're pulling data into a data lake and then building a semantic model and so on. But particularly, I wanted to talk about delta loading and some of the challenges that happen when you're pulling data from an API.
Yeah, old delta loads. Yeah, that's it.
Well, let's define delta loads first.
Yeah. Good point. So delta load is when you're pulling only new and changed records from your source. So I guess the opposite of that, which I think is helpful, is a full load, which you're pulling every single record every time you run your pipeline. It's not a great way to go because you would like your pipeline to run faster than that. In some cases, that's just not feasible even.
Right.
So only pulling new and changed records so you can update your lake, and then you have up-to-date information is best practice.
Yeah, for a lot of reasons. One, you can pull it a lot faster. You're moving a lot less data. You can update your lake more often because if it takes you 3 hours to do a full load, you're not going to do that very often, once or twice a day. If it takes you 3 or 4 minutes to do a delta load, great, you can do that every hour, every half hour,
right,
whatever you want. So there's other reasons to do delta loads, and that's to keep track of changes. So, for example, if you have a dimension, let's say a salesperson dimension, and salespeople are assigned to a region, and let's say a salesperson gets moved to a different region, if you're just doing full loads and somehow not keeping track of when that salesperson was in the previous region, when you do historical reporting, it'll be wrong because it'll only know about the current region they're in.
Yeah, it kind of simplifies that process, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, if you're doing a full load, technically you could still do it, but it's not going to be, you're going to have to basically do a full comparison of the data you have versus the data you just pulled and kind of do it that way.
Create your own delta.
Yeah. Right, yeah.
Yes.
Find the differences, which is not awesome. So yeah, if you're just pulling the changes, then it's easy, right? You know that this record changed. Yeah.
So why are you prevented from always just doing a delta load? What causes problems?
Yeah, so there can be a few different ways. One that's somewhat common, it's becoming a lot less common with newer systems and stuff, but some of the old ERP systems just do not have a modified date or any way to identify a record that changed, right? And it really, you need a modified date. You need to know when was the last time this record was touched so that you can then basically, the way that you do it is you say, okay, last time our process ran, it started at this time, so you capture that. And then the next time your process runs, you say, give me everything that was updated after the last time I ran. So that's the way to do a delta load, right? Some of the old systems just don't have timestamps on them. They don't keep track of when records were touched. Like I said, that's becoming less and less of a problem, but we still run into it here and there. Another common thing that's a little bit more common is there will be like an updated date on a record, but your detail table may not have it. Now you can still do it. So in this scenario, I'm talking about like if you had an invoice header, one row for an invoice header, and then you have like 5 lines on your invoice. Those are typically stored in 2 separate tables. So invoice header, you might be able to say, okay, this invoice was adjusted, but really the system, it was one of the lines on that system. So you can still kind of do a pseudo delta, but then you'd have to say, okay, all of these invoices changed, so give me all the lines for every single one of these invoices. It's not awesome.
Yeah.
The other thing that can come up is your APIs. Some APIs just don't give you a good way to do delta loads.
They won't report. They won't let you say, hey, just let me pull things that have changed since this certain date timestamp.
Right. And that is still pretty common.
Yeah.
You might have to, like some APIs, this is less common. Some APIs will only let you pull data if you have IDs, and then there's a separate endpoint to pull all of the IDs. Yeah. So you have to pull all the IDs, then you have to loop through and pull every single record for every single ID, it can be kind of challenging. However, to react to the delta load thing, that is not that can be a big problem from an API. It's just not having the ability to do it.
So if you don't have a good API that supports it, it seems like people are going to need to support that more and more. The solution, the workaround of doing a full load and then doing your own compare to get the delta load, just seems really inefficient. And in fact, the people that are providing the API, they don't want people to having to pull full loads. It's a big tax on their system.
Right. Yeah. I think kind of what we're seeing right now is the same type of thing that we saw with ERPs and stuff, where it really wasn't a big use case at first. Like APIs are not built for data extraction, right? They are built for third-party developers to build something on top of their. But people are using it more and more for that. So to your point, I mean, it's in their best interest to give you a easy way to pull changes.
Yeah, interesting. There's also APIs that just simply don't let you get at detailed data to even be able to do a delta load. Really, you're pulling at a layer that's so high that, I mean, that's its own class of problem. But
yeah, right.
All right, what else about delta loads? Any suggestions for people on how to deal with it when they get one of these bad APIs?
Yeah, well, I mean, sometimes you just can't, right? I guess you got to try and make every effort you can to do it.
Yeah.
It's going to pay off in the long run. I guess the other topic that I did want to touch on was that topic of deletions in your data. So those can be a real challenge.
If they just disappear, but there's
the record just disappears. So if you're delta loading, so that's where delta loading can actually cause you a problem if you don't handle deletions, right? So because you can't assume down the line, because since you're only getting change records, you're not doing a full load, right? Yeah,
right.
And you don't know if it
if
disappeared.
They're not giving you, hey, this record changed, and it changed by becoming deleted. If it's just disappearing, you don't know.
Right. Yeah. You don't know if it changed or if it didn't change or if it got deleted. Right. So the way to handle that is, at least the way that we handle it, because it works in every scenario, is to pull the primary keys from every table that you need to reconcile deletions from.
Okay.
So like a customer dimension, you probably don't need to, and actually I would recommend you do not do deletions, right? Because you might mess up your integrity if a customer is deleted and the records in the fact table.
It's being used somewhere, right? Yeah.
So you want to, in your dimensions table, you want to keep everything. So it's not every table that you have to do this for, but like your invoice table, for example, you want to pull all of the invoice IDs, just the ID column, right? Don't pull any of the information. So you can tell, like, okay, is every single ID still in the data set? And then you can reconcile yours with that.
Okay, so that pull of just the IDs column is a lot cheaper than pulling everything.
Exactly.
And then you can reconcile on that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, that's a good workaround.
Yeah, it's still not ideal. The ideal case is if the system could tell you, like, had a deletions table or something that you could pull.
Yeah.
But yeah, most systems do not have that.
Maybe
we'll see that change.
Yeah. Any other cool tricks like that?
I mean, I think that pretty much covers it. If you can do that, if you can figure out how to do your delta loads and then do your deletions, you're in a pretty good spot.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Good topic. Thank you.
Yeah. See ya.
See ya.